All right, Laura, you got it? Give me a thumbs up. Perfect. So our agenda, we're going to do a program overview talking about Spanish immersion dual language. We're going to talk about what are the outcomes? What can you expect in terms of skill development and Spanish language acquisition? Considerations for you to think through as you decide if this is a good match for your child and your family. And then finally, I'm going to give you the specific logistics about our lottery. Erica, I'm going to turn it over to you.
You're muted, Erica.
Sorry about that. Thank you. So given the opportunity, all of the students are capable of and can benefit from learning another language. There are factors that take place in acquiring a second language and can influence the way that they learn. But these are basically the guiding principles in the language development. We start with the silent period for our students. And that is basically what we acquire in the first grade. And they talk about, that's the social situations. The language skill is not profoundly cognitively demanding. On here, it takes about 6 months to 2 years for them in the beginning stages of the language acquisition. And then as they get older, we can see how they go from the silent period to the early development, the speech emergence, and the intermediate fluency. So that the older grades, it's a more formal academic learning, and it takes about 5 to 7 years for the students to acquire the appropriate levels of their skills. They both do require time and patience, so we always have to remember that. Okay, we can. So our district does an amazing job in providing the multiple pathways to acquire a second language. We have the early language acquisition, which is done through our dual language and our immersion programs. So here it takes advantage of the natural language learning ability. It is a natural process in which oftentimes they're unaware of the grammatical structures and the rules. They're just acquiring it in a very organic way. We have the later language acquisition process that happens in the middle school and the high school. So either way, they're both great ways and great pathways for our students in Alamo Heights to acquire a language. So just so you understand the difference, even if they don't get into our program, there are still opportunities for them later on to learn a second language. So our goals for our programs in our district are both alike. They are what we call their bilingualism, biculturalism, and biliteracy are the goals of both of our programs. So here we have the high levels of literacy in both languages, high levels of academic, both, and the development across the cross-cultural understanding and appreciation. So we're very proud of both of our programs, and our goals are both the same.
Thanks, Erica. So as Erica just said, our ultimate goals for Spanish immersion and dual language are the same. High academic achievement, high language acquisition, and then an understanding and appreciation of culture. But the goals are the same, but the path to achieving those goals is slightly different depending on which program. So I'm going to talk through how the programs are alike and different. So dual language, the students within the dual language classroom, half of them are native English speakers learning Spanish, and the other half of the class is native Spanish speakers learning English. In Spanish immersion, all of the students within the classroom are native English learners learning Spanish. So that's one key difference between the program. Another difference is how language is introduced. In dual language, because we have students learning English and learning Spanish, in first grade, it begins predominantly Spanish, a little bit of English, but by the time you get into 5th grade, their instructional day is half in English, half in Spanish. Compare that to Spanish immersion, where all of the students are learning Spanish, it is full immersion beginning in first grade, and it continues to be predominantly Spanish all the way through fifth grade. And you can see how that breaks down in the next row where it says English instruction. On the dual language side, by the time they're in fifth grade, 3 hours of their day is in English. As opposed to in Spanish immersion, in fifth grade, it's still only about 45 minutes to up to an hour of English instruction. The next line here about language models, I want to sit here for a minute and talk about this, because when I talk about data in a moment, you'll see why this matters. So language models means who do the students have access to, who can model fluent, native-like Spanish proficiency. And in a dual language classroom, students who are native English speakers hear their peers who are native Spanish speakers speaking Spanish and their teacher. So there's opportunity for academic fluency and also social fluency. If they're playing out at recess and their peers are native Spanish speakers, they're more likely to use Spanish, as opposed to in Spanish immersion, when all the students are native English, if they're out on the playground, they're more likely to be speaking English. Class sizes. In Spanish immersion, we do enroll up to 24 students in each Spanish immersion classroom. That's higher than our normal class size. Most first grade classrooms are about 20. But the reason it's larger is to account for attrition. We want that class is going to stay, those two classes are going to stay together, and we don't want a fifth grade class that's 15 or 16 kiddos, and we do have students that move. So we do begin larger in Spanish immersion. In dual language, we don't. We actually begin at about 20, because if we have English learners who move into our district, they'll go into that that dual language program. So those are some of the key differences between dual language and Spanish immersion. Now, Erica talked about in the beginning that developing a second language takes time. I don't know if any of you took Spanish 1 or 2 in high school and you think about the level of fluency you had after 2 years, like it takes time. So we do have pathways that begin in first grade and go all the way through high school. And I think it's important because you commit to this program. It's going to influence your child's pathway, not just through elementary, but their entire tenure with us in Elmo Heights. So at the elementary school, we have 1 dual language classroom per grade level, and we have 2 Spanish immersion. Students will stay together as a cohort model through elementary. In junior school, now when they're in 6th grade, they take a reading class in Spanish, social studies, and science. Beginning in 7th grade, they take Spanish as a separate subject, so a language other than English World Language Program. One thing I want to highlight, and this is, I think, incredibly exciting, is that students who've been in our language program in elementary, if they complete all of our language program, in junior school, they go straight into Spanish 2. And upon successfully completing Spanish 2, they earn credit for Spanish 1. So what this means is in 7th grade, kids who've been in Spanish immersion go into Spanish 2. In 8th grade, they can go into Spanish 3, which means they're leaving junior school with 3 high school credits for language programs. One, this is incredibly exciting that kids can earn high school credit for something that they started in first grade. But the other reason this is important, if we have kids who really want space in their high school schedule for rocketry, they've fulfilled some of their initial credits in junior school. Or what we really hope is that when kids get to junior school, they continue studying Spanish and go into our AP classes or our dual credit. Students can earn, if they're in dual credit, 8 college hours of foreign language credit. That is a big deal. Our students do incredibly well, both on the advanced placement exam and in dual credit. So the decisions you make about putting your child on the path to learning a second language do have outcomes that influence even college credit when they graduate from Alamo Heights. So I mentioned earlier about the importance of dual language and having language models in the classroom. So we give our students an assessment to look at their language acquisition skill. So it's a test on how are they able to, the 4 domains of literacy, read in Spanish, write in Spanish, speak and listen, understand in Spanish. So receptive and productive skills. And we use a test called Avant Stamp. It's used across the US. It is nationally normed. And so we compare the progress of our language program students to that of other language program students who've also been in a program for 5 years or 8 years. We give it at 5th grade, 8th grade, and then in the high school. So these are 5th grade scores, and I'm going to start. We didn't give Avant last year because of COVID. So this data is from 17-18. Our kids are taking Avant this week. But if you look at Spanish immersion, the yellow column shows you what the national comparison is. So in reading across the US, students who had been in an immersion program for 5 years scored a 4.37. That's out of 1 to 5 scale. Our Alamo Heights students, 4.78. So you can see we exceeded national norms in reading, writing, listening, speaking, and in composite for our Spanish immersion. Going to the bottom of dual language, here it's a little bit different. In the yellow, those norms are complete, the Spanish speakers in dual language and the English speakers. But we looked at our norms and separated out those 2 groups. So under reading, nationally across the US, kids who have been in a dual language program for 5 years in reading were scoring a 4.6. Our English learners, students who their home language is Spanish, were a 4.71. And our Spanish learners, so native English, were a 4.9. So again, exceeding national norms. But I want you to look right here under speaking. Our kids in both programs do exceptionally well. Where we see the difference each year is in speaking, because our students who are in dual language are more apt to speak in Spanish to their peers, to their teachers, and we show that they score higher in speaking. So that is one difference that we see, both programmatic, but also showing up in outcomes as well. But across the board, our kids are leaving us with strong Spanish proficiency skills. And we see that playing out in the fact that they can skip Spanish 1 at the junior school level, and the fact that they're knocking it out of the park in dual credit and AP exams. Mariana, I'm going to turn it over to you to talk through, because I've just told you some of the positive outcomes. But you guys, we're not trying to sell you a program. We want to talk about things that we know are good outcomes, but we also want to be transparent about some of the points of frustrations that parents have brought to the table before. So Mariana, I'm going to turn it over to you.
It's great to be here. Hi, guys. So yes, we would just want to share some of the things that we found that families, right, like we said, they might cause some frustration. So we want you to make a good decision, and for you to really take all of this into consideration to see if this is a good match for your family. And we want to be very upfront about it. So the first one is Spanish immersion, like they mentioned, right? It is larger than other classrooms. I mean, here's some things. You might not experience this, but this is some things that we found. Volunteer opportunities could be limited because of the language, right, of instruction. Maybe if you're a parent that really like to share homework, right, like doing homework with your kids, if the homework is in Spanish and you don't speak Spanish, that could be, right, a frustration. Even though all of the kids should be taking homework that they're able to do independently, right? Although our first grade dual language and Spanish immersion teachers are fantastic and compassionate and very empathetic and lovely. I've never seen this actually, but I think the transition between kinder to first grade could be hard. especially because you're in a big school and, and then now they're going to a classroom, everything's in Spanish. But I do feel very confident. Our teachers are amazing. Okay, so now I'm going to talk a little bit about tier services. Um, because we know that language acquisition takes time, right? We don't start math and reading support until they've had at least one semester, okay, of Spanish. We want to give them time, right? We want to give time. So I want everybody to know that. And because of our lottery protocol, sometimes that might not allow like a good balance, right? A boy and girl. So sometimes some classrooms could be more boy heavy, right, than girl heavy. So we just want you to be very upfront about some of the challenges that we've experienced. Next. But we also want to let you know that that not because you're in a Spanish immersion or dual language classroom, you don't have access to the same services that all students have. So student support academically and counseling, it's available in whether you're in Spanish immersion, dual language, or general education. It's exactly the same. So RTI is response to intervention, meaning academic support in reading and math, and that is available in Spanish. So normally we go with the language of instruction in first and second grade, and then we start transitioning them into English for support purposes. So that means if your child struggles, that's okay. They can be in Spanish immersion, they can be in dual language. We're gonna help them, right? Dyslexia. We also have a dyslexia program in Spanish. So if a student is identified with dyslexia, we have a Spanish program for students in first and second grade that we do in Spanish. Actually, I do it. And we also have special ed support, and we have friendships. And sometimes that is also hard because a lot of the students are going to be with the same kids, right, for 5 years. When Spanish immersion, they'll have 2 classrooms, and dual, they'll have 1. But our counselors do an amazing job, right, with that and supporting them. It can be an edge of what sorts. For my son, it worked out really good because he's an introvert and he likes his friends. So it's really good to take into consideration your child's personality. Thank you.
Ruth, I'm going to turn it over to you to talk through some considerations from the parent's point of view.
Hi, everyone. It's so good to be here. So glad that you all are here as well. So in terms of the language program considerations, one thing that's important to take keep in mind is your child's learning style, their needs, their personality. So like, how would your child respond if they walk into a classroom and everything now is a foreign to them language? So is that going to be a source of like excitement, opportunity, or are they going to be possibly scared or feel anxiety about that? The other thing too is your parent style, your needs, your personality, because it is a combined effort, right, between student, parent, teachers. And so for you as a parent, if you always dreamed of sitting at the kitchen table and doing homework with your child, and even though, yes, independent work, as Mariana said, but also like science projects, there's so much that goes into being able to help a child. Keep in mind that everything will be in Spanish. So how will you be able to respond to that? Of course, there are things like Google Translate, et cetera, that have gotten much better in recent years, but just do keep that in mind that it will be a difference in that regard. In terms of students with special needs, as Mariana said, all of our student services are offered in English and Spanish 100%. But oftentimes we find that parents, let's say, whose student is identified as dyslexic or has dyslexia, they might choose to exit the language program because rather than adding one extra thing that their child has to deal with, that might be something that to take it off their plate, if you will. So definitely it is your family's choice to participate. But just definitely keep in mind the implications that there are for you and your student, not just in first grade, as we've talked about, but all through the 5 years in elementary. Next slide, please. In terms of the parent commitment, it is indeed a 5-year commitment to this program through and through, so that we really do please ask you that if you're going into this with a, we're going to give it a go, we're going to check it out if this will work for a month or so, we would appreciate that to not happen. One, primarily because it's not great for your student. It puts your student in just a possible disadvantage than to go from all Spanish and then quickly pivot to all English. So definitely something that wouldn't be ideal for the student, for your student. Additionally, then it also keeps another family from getting into. And as I think Jimmy will talk about, Dr. Walker will talk about later in terms of the lottery, it varies from year to year, but what a family that would have been very wanting to do the whole 5 years, that spot would have been taken. So we ask you to definitely keep that in mind, and we discourage that type of, we're just going to try it out for 2 months or so. Additionally, in terms of the phonics, because they're starting all in Spanish phonics, it's really difficult. Sometimes that acquisition is going to take time, obviously. And we ask that you be patient and really trust the teachers. And of course, always ask questions if you have any. We're here to be able to listen and walk with you, if you will, with the program, but understand that because it's Spanish phonics all throughout for the first times, it's really difficult then to be able to do English later, but that lag typically disappears by the 5th grade. It's also really important, and that we ask you to do this, to read to your child every night in English at home. So sometimes parents ask, well, my kindergartner's already reading in English. Do we have to stop that? Absolutely not. Keep going with that, not a problem. The only thing that we do ask, please, is that you don't teach specific phonics in English to your child. Let that specific teaching be done at school in terms of the phonics in Spanish. And that would be very helpful. Next slide. So the lottery, is this still me? Yes. So the lottery procedures and policies. Obviously, we ask that, those who are eligible to participate would have gone through kindergarten at Howard, which is all of you all and your cute little kiddos. And so siblings do get first preference when building our classes. We ask all parents to be familiar with the language programs and the commitment, which is what you're doing now. When we do the lottery, we do try to place students in their home school, such that if you're Woodridge, zoned for Woodridge, you stay in Woodridge, zoned for Cambridge, you stay in Cambridge. However, that said, given we try to do that as much as possible, but due to space, there may not be an opening, let's say, at Cambridge, and thus we would try to place you at Woodridge. At that point, however, transportation would definitely fall on the parents and family to be able to transport the student to their non-home school, if you will.
Thanks, Ruth. Good job setting up, talking about the lottery. So when we say it's a lottery, y'all, it's a real lottery. This is a terrible picture, but this is, Lori takes everyone's name who's in our lottery, puts it on an index card. The index cards go inside this, I don't know, lottery wheel. It's covered in chicken wire. We crank it, and then we pull out names. It is a straight lottery. If we always have twins that go through, so twins are on the same card, so that if one twin gets in, the other will as well. I do the lottery. We have an administrator and a parent who is here all watching the lottery, in addition to Lori, who, as I said, keeps us all organized and on top of everything. One thing I also want you to know is that if you're not placed into a language program class, but you're on the wait list, when we send you notification, you will know where you are on that wait list. If you're number 1 on the wait list, or number 5, or number 15, we're going to tell you that right from the beginning. And you can also, over the summer, if you reach out, we can give you updates on how it's going with that lottery. But that's a little bit about the lottery. Here's the timeline. So after we concluded our last parent meeting, which is Thursday, we're going to post a link to the lottery application. It will be on our curriculum website, so you can get it straight from the Alma Heights website, Department's Curriculum Language Programs. It'll be right there. And it'll also be in your Monday mail that's sent out by Liz Acevedo from Howard. So you'll have access to it two ways. If you can't find it on the website and you missed Monday mail, reach out to, yes, you guessed it, Lori Garcia, who keeps us all organized, and she can make sure that you get that application. It is a fairly tight window of time to get those applications turned into us. So we'll begin accepting lottery applications. You can email it, you can snail mail it, you can drop it off at central office anytime between April 12th and April 16th. We do want all of those applications received by 4:30 on April 16th. And this is a hard and fast deadline, because Lori then works on getting the index cards ready. And if you miss the lottery, there's nothing we can do except put you at the bottom of the wait list. So please circle that date of April 16th on your calendar so that you make sure you get those applications to us on time. We'll do the lottery the week of the 19th. We'll send out parent notifications the week of May 3rd through 7th. What I want everyone to know is, even if you get on the wait list, please know we work that wait list all summer. Every year, there are families that have unexpected moves. There are families that have second thoughts and withdraw. There are families that, when we do the end of year dyslexia screening, who then have second thoughts about, wow, now I think I'm not going to do language programs. There's always changes all summer long. And when we do have someone who moves, we just keep going down that wait list. So please know that we do work that all summer up until the day before Meet the Teacher. We've talked through the program. We've talked through what to expect. We've talked through considerations for your child and for you as you decide if language programs is the best pathway for your family. In the beginning, we talked about there's multiple ways to becoming bilingual. You can do it when you're very young, beginning in first grade, or if this is not what you want to do for elementary, that's absolutely okay. You can begin language programs and take Spanish or Latin or French beginning in 7th grade. Either way, we value bilingualism, literacy, and we have multiple pathways to helping students and families achieve their goals. In a moment, we'll take any general questions that you have for the good of the group. If you have specific questions about your child and you want to talk it through, but maybe not with 40 of your best friends on the same call all at once, you can reach out to me. You can reach out to Mariana at Cambridge, Erica at Woodridge, Amy if it's a curriculum question. Like, please know all of us are here to answer questions and just be a thought partner with you as you're making this decision for your child. But I'm going to quit sharing, and then we'll, any questions on the chat, we will take those. All right, Mariana, Erica, can you check the chat for me? And let me know if we have anything there.
Yes, we don't have any questions yet.
All right.
We have a question, Jimmy.
Oh, I see. All right. So Lindsay's asking, can students do Immersion and Heights? Absolutely, 100%. They can be in programs for gifted and talented and in immersion. Please know that the day that or the time that they spend in our Heights program is in English. So there will be more English to their week, but absolutely, we have lots of kids who participate in both programs. We have another question. Is there a difference in language ability from learners at a young age versus those who pick it up in high school or college? So I'm going to answer this from our own internal data. I told you our language program kids do really well when they get to high school and they're taking dual credit or AP exams. But we've also seen kids who begin language programs in the 7th grade go on to make 4s and 5s on AP exam as well. So one of the nice things about when kids are older learners, they do have some better study skills. And so we've seen high achievement at both levels. Writing Star. So, okay, here, newsflash, this is the last year of Writing Star, everybody. Next year, there is a writing component that will be embedded into the reading test at every grade. So traditionally, the Writing Star has been given in English, but what happens is for every student, the teacher, the family make a decision about which language is best for the child in terms of their language of assessment, if it's going to be English or Spanish. So we do have and have had in the past some native English speakers who took STAR in Spanish and did exceedingly well. And we've had native Spanish speakers who took it in English and did exceedingly well, but that's an individual decision. Erica, Mariana, you want to add into anything there about language of assessment, STAR and assessments?
Dual students in dual language programs are allowed to take it in Spanish. Students in Spanish immersion are not.
Correct.
Thank you. Thanks for that clarification. That was really good. Another question, Heights at Home. Great question. I should have put this in for this year. So this year we did have language programs. I am going to be fully transparent that this year that did mean we combined Cambridge and Woodridge. We also combined Spanish immersion and dual language. We don't yet know fully what next year will look like, but we are committed to offering a virtual option if needed for language programs. So if your child is in the lottery, is participating in language programs, and does need a virtual option, being in language programs, they could do both as well. I don't have all the details for you yet. I'm sorry. We're waiting on TEA for some guidance, but they could do both there. How much larger is Spanish immersion? Spanish immersion are enrolled at 24 students in a classroom. Dual language, we try to keep it 20 so that students can move in. And in general, Jerry, how big are your 1st grade classrooms in general?
In general, in the language program, or?
In general, in the English classes?
In 1st grade, around 20.
Mm-hmm. So but in 5th grade, and Erica, Mariana, usually our Spanish immersion are down to about 22,
or sometimes even 18.
Yeah, for kids who are moving out. Whereas the 5th grade classes in English might be larger. I'm trying to read questions and make sure I'm understanding. Student to teacher ratio, Matt, that's a great question. We do have teaching assistants in language programs who are there when those classes are larger to be another person to support and keep the student to teacher ratio smaller.
In 1st grade.
In 1st grade.
Jimmy, there was a question too up from there from Susanna's iPhone regarding siblings and how the lottery works.
I love that. So this is one of the things that we value in language program is we do want families to be able to provide all of their students with a similar experience. So we don't have one student who's in immersion and then another student who's in an English pathway. So we do siblings once your child is in language program. So if you have a kindergartner and this is your 1st child, if they are placed in a language program, all of your younger children, you have the choice if you want to put them in the same language program. So if you have a child in Spanish immersion, but you have a 4-year-old 2 years from now, you can choose to have that child be in Spanish immersion and you don't have to go through the lottery again. Now, if you wanted your older is in Spanish immersion, you want the younger in dual language, you go through the lottery. But there is, siblings are automatically placed. There's a commitment form that goes out where families do sign up siblings. It happens before the lottery, but siblings are automatically placed in language programs. I'm trying to read this question here from Ali that says, how are Spanish immersion and language programs against their English counterparts in other testing avenues? Erica, Mariana, you guys are looking close. Like, what are your thoughts on this? I think by the time we hit third grade, we've closed any of that gap, but I'll let you all speak to that. And Amy, what you see.
Yes, that is correct. When we get to about third grade, we close the gap. As we mentioned earlier, I think it was Dr. Jean Demore that mentioned that there is a gap at the beginning because they're acquiring the language. But by third grade, the gap closes and the students actually either do as well or can surpass their counterparts.
I would also, partly because if you think about the language that they're developing and just the understanding, they'll have a much broader vocabulary. And that really does help when they're writing and reading, having that breadth of a vocabulary development.
And I have a perfect example. I always try to tell parents, because it's nice for them to understand how it comes together. But I'll never forget when we had a group of third graders, one of the students was reading a book and talking about the plume in the hat. And most of the students didn't understand, well, in Spanish, pluma is a very common word, or the word culpable, culpable. So it's nice for them to transfer those skills when they are being assessed. And so those are some of the benefits of acquiring the second language.
Thanks, Erica. That's great. I think, you guys, did we answer everyone's questions? I want to make sure we do. The other thing, you guys, we know how this is. Everything seems straightforward when we're on this meeting, but you're going to be walking your dog later this afternoon and other questions are going to come to your mind. So please know, Erica Gainey, all of our emails are the same here in Alamo Heights. So Erica is egainey@ahisd.net. Jerry is G Spellman so we're all really easy to find, contact, and happy to help you. It's a big decision. It is a 5-year commitment. My own kids have gone through language programs. My daughter's beginning Baylor next year with 8 credit hours of Spanish. Y'all, that's 2 classes I don't have to pay for at Baylor. So I think personally, it's a great program. I love watching my own students, my own kids, be able to communicate with abuelita in Spanish. So it has benefits beyond academics. But you've got to make the best choice for your family. So whether it is jumping on the pathway now or waiting until junior school, we really do value this in this district, and we're here to help you every step along the way. Language leaders, anything else you guys want to add before we close it up? All right. Thank you all for your time today. We've recorded this. We will post this. You are welcome to come back Thursday night, part 2. We'll be doing the same presentation again if you want to hear it again or you want to ask your spouse to attend. And then we will post the application on the very next day. So with that, we will conclude. Thank you all very much. Have a super good day.